Hey Aquarius, what's up? Where we are starting within the energy is connected with looking like there could be an industry that you are trying to break into. If it's not an industry, it can be like a skill set that you're trying to learn, or it can be like a path that you want to go down. But I'm seeing that it can feel difficult to kind of like break through the wall of what that is. Even if this is like a connection or something, there can be something about having to put in maybe a heavy amount of effort in order to get the breakthrough, but being at that point where it can like kind of go either way. Like, are you going to give up on this, or are you going to keep going with this? What are you going to do? This can even just be like, this is the direction that I want to go in, and I'm gonna have to resolve some stuff or like face some difficult stuff, or then maybe there's like a little bit of resistance that I'm gonna have to work through, maybe a lot of resistance that I'm gonna have to work through. But if I do that and I don't quit, I'm going to be able to get to that point of having the breakthrough that I want. And this is associated with somewhere where you want to be, so it would definitely be worthwhile. We are starting off with Four of Wands. I guess I'm rearranging that's happening. There can be stuff that has been part of your everyday life that you may be removing just because you don't really want it to be part of the picture anymore. We have Four of Wands, King of Pentacles, King of Wands, and Hermit. See this, like, how can we get everybody to get along here? Okay, yeah. I find this combination interesting. I see it every once in a while. Having Four of Wands and having the Devil always gives this vibe of like keeping the peace, but if you go keeping the peace kind of like externally or on the surface, but if you go below the surface, there are like a lot of issues that can be being covered up and not being addressed. So it can be like, in order for me to be like keeping up appearances in some way, this is what we're doing. But like, if anybody were to see what's on the inside of this, or like even how I'm really feeling about this, it would be a totally different story. So there can be something about that that's being looked into. Maybe there's also stuff that you look at and you feel like it's out of control or it's out of balance in some way. And you can be maybe wanting to problem solve wherever that is, because the Devil can be anything that you feel like is askew in some way, something that is out of order. But having Hermit look at it, you can be wanting to get something in order. This can be like, I want to get a relationship in order, or I want to get my house in order here, or I want to get my business in order, or stuff at work I want to get in order. There's something that you can look at, or like family stuff. There's something that you can be looking at here and looking into and be like, I think that this is like kind of dysfunctional. And even though with the Four of Wands above it, it can be in some way like keeping up appearances a little bit, there can be, so you get like some sort of benefit from it. You can feel like the mechanics of this are off. And so it's something that you can, this is like, you know what this reminds me of? Like the term of functional alcoholic, where like, you know that there's a problem, but like technically it's functioning. And I'm seeing that as like a metaphor for this situation. Like, it can technically be functioning, but there is like an inherent issue with it. And so if you were to take the closer look at this and do some inventory here, this can be something where maybe you feel like you could make this better, because Hermit is going to want to improve things. So I'm seeing you looking at something with the hope of like fixing it or working it out or improving it in some way. This can also have to do with like work-life balance. Like, maybe there is a lack of work-life balance. That can be something that you're looking into. It's just going to be like some area of your life that you're looking at, and it can be soothing your ego, the effect that this is having. But as far as your soul, you can feel like very uncomfortable in this circumstance, like something is off. And you can want answers too. You can want to know why it's like this. You can want to just take a close look at it to see if there's something that you could do about this. Like, is this workable? Is this fixable? Having Devil and having Knight of Pentacles, it can be like showing up and putting the work in, but there can be some sort of, like, it doesn't feel natural. It's something that it feels like it's out of flow to be doing things in that way. So you can have to like push yourself, not in a progressive type of way. It's like a different type of way. It's like you have to take yourself out of flow in order to maybe build or participate in what this is. And there can also be like some sort of, this can be something that you feel like you can't get out of, but you may not want this situation to be like this anymore or look like this anymore. You may not want to participate in it like this anymore either. I think too, like having Devil and having King of Wands, this situation is something that can put you in a place of power in this instance, but you can also be compromising in a big way, and maybe in a way that if you could have this without having to play into things like this, I think that you would. This is one of those things where it's like maybe it feels like it kind of comes with the territory, but you can feel like it's kind of wrong for you at the same time. But you do get benefits from this. Because this can maybe help you stay in control in a way that you want to be in control. But if you could, you would like eliminate this aspect of it. Like you would keep the power, but eliminate certain things that have to be done in order to like keep this going here. Meaning I think that this asks you to participate in things that you don't like naturally want to participate in, but you can be doing so because of the control, or at least like the feeling of control that this gives you. And you can be looking into that with yourself. Like, why is that something that I feel like is so important to me that I'm willing to do this or like go to these lengths just to hold on to that? Because maybe you want things to feel healthier with Hermit here. You can also be seeing that there's more than one way to do this, and maybe that's becoming apparent where you're like, this is not the only way to do things and to have things function and to get things done, but that can maybe be a bit of a process. I think that there's a new system that's underway that is going to be developed. But you may have to look and see what is corrupt about this situation. You're going to have to point those things out. And I think that's what's in the process of happening. And then I think like another way to do this is going to be found overall. Because the way that you want things to be can be becoming more apparent to you. But what's also going to happen is that places where you hold on to, you're like vying for power and trying to stay in control, but in like an unnatural way, you're going to be looking into this. Because this is stuff that comes from shadow ego. So it can be something that you're looking into and be like, I'm driven to this point because this is the thing that's motivating me. And if I don't confront this, it's going to continue like this. And I don't know that you want things to be like this anymore. So it's going to benefit you to look into it because you think like things could be better. And I think they indeed can be. I want to get a little bit more though on this. It's kind of just like to keep things afloat, the length that you have to go or like the things that you have to do in order to do that don't necessarily feel right, but it can like have you feeling in control or like have the upper hand in this situation. Kind of like staying on top of everything. You can also in general have mixed feelings about this situation too, where in some ways it's like it feels good because I feel my ego feels safe here, but in other ways there are like also other things that are going on. And I think I kind of get the vibe of you being like on a little bit of a like health journey, but this feels more like mental health to me, and it can be about what's going on psychologically and then what the ripple effect of that is as far as like what's going on within your life. And you can be looking at something and be like, I'm experiencing these results of something that I'm trying to get to the catalyst of. So you can be willing to look at stuff that maybe you weren't willing to look at before. Now, for some of you, you may look at this and be like, I'm fine with my ego being the one that's making the decisions here. I'd feel really uncomfortable changing course here and doing something different because I don't want to feel like I'm out of control in the way that this allows me to be in control. So that can be, for some of you, a conclusion that you're going to come to, because I feel like this has been an ongoing thing that's been happening, and there's this part of you that keeps pushing you again and again to look into this, but I do think that your ego can have like a really strong foothold within this and not really want to let go and not really want to compromise and not really want to do anything different, because then you can feel like you're sort of free falling in the energy and you can be doing lots of things to ensure that you don't actually. And not that that comes from your soul or it comes from a place of self-trust or it comes from your higher self. This is like specifically ego driven, but also too like sometimes we want to be playing that out. It's not like it's a bad thing. You can have a more enjoyable experience doing things in another way, but you're gonna have to confront your ego in order for that to happen here. Yeah, I think that this is like affording you something that you want currently. But the means, there's an issue with the means. It seems before like this may have felt normal to you to do things in this way, but now something's coming up where I feel like you're looking into this and feeling like that may not actually be true. Like there's some type of awareness that's popping up here that I think like wasn't necessarily there before. It's a situation where you're like, if everything is fine, why am I feeling this way? Or why does something maybe feel a little bit off? Or like, why do I not feel the way that I thought I was going to feel? There can be something like this. I wonder too if you're getting to this point where you feel like you have to. Okay, so this is an interesting concept. You can feel like you have to give up some of your power in order to stay in control of this situation. Meaning, you may be having to do things in this situation that I don't think you would like normally do in other circumstances, but because it's like allowing you to be like in control in this situation. And that can be something that before, it may have been something that you didn't really look into before, but I think I don't know, it's giving like a little bit of a coercive energy where before that could have been normal. Like there could have been something about situations and maybe you also were, it can be something like maybe growing up you saw certain like transactional relationships. So it didn't feel weird for you for your relationships to mirror that because that was part of your programming. But now like something is evolving within you and there's this growing self-awareness of like what fits together and what's like genuinely harmonious and in flow versus what is transactional. And you can be looking at something and say, this type of situation I don't think is meant to be transactional, but it is. And so what does that mean? Because I think, like, at least in the context that I'm speaking about, transactional versus a flow, harmonious relationship feel like two different things where when it comes to the transactional nature of this, having the devil here can be like you are getting something from this, but you may not enjoy what you have to do in order to get this to work. But you can also feel chained to it because you like certain things that you get from this. But I think that you're coming to a point of saying, like, I don't know that this actually feels as empowering as like a situation that would maybe feel like things worked a little bit differently. So you can want something where if you are in what we can say is a transactional situation, because I think a lot of things are transactional, but I feel like the connotation of saying a transactional relationship feels like sometimes we have to like compromise a little bit on stuff that we don't necessarily want to in order to get something that we want. You're shifting away from that and shifting towards being involved in a relationship where what you show up with naturally and what you're happy to do, that's what it costs. So it's not having you do anything that feels unnatural to you. And that's where it looks like the shift is going to. So instead of it being you being asked to do anything to keep this afloat that you don't really want to be doing, and you can feel like kind of disempowered by that a little bit. You know, like you can be using your energy in a way that it like doesn't really feel great to be using it like that, even though you can be making the situation work. I think this is sliding over towards how you would normally naturally be showing up, and that being the currency, and that being like all you need. You don't have to do anything outside of that. And this can be something where you're like, you know, that actually is possible, I think. So it can be something where, you know, like you can be having a bit of a a heart chakra clearing here, because that is something that's going to be involved with a situation like this. You know, you can be like opening up a little bit. You can be seeing that things can be a little bit different than that. And you can also be getting more in touch with yourself here and maybe more empowered within your values and what feels like it's worth it to you. But there definitely is some like hardcore stuff here with your ego that is going to have to be confronted, because I do feel like there is this part of you that is really holding on and staying in control in this situation, even though it's asking these things of you. And it may be getting to the point where you could like want things to be different, and you could see that that actually is possible for you. And if it's possible, why would you not go for that if that's something that you'd prefer? So you think this is something big that's coming up in the energy? So yeah, you can be looking at the ways that you use your energy in ways that don't feel good to you, even though it can be getting you what you want at times. And then you feel like you're like giving pieces of yourself away in order to participate. And so it can be something that's like weakening you energetically, and you're not going to feel good in that type of instance. So yeah, it can be something where you're like, that can be like what you're getting down to, like that's what's going on, and that's why you've been feeling the way that you've been feeling. And that's kind of what's at the bottom of this. So maybe you're also like becoming less numb as well, and like more feeling within the energy too. Because I think in order to put up with something like this, we also have to do things where we're like not feeling as much and not present enough, so we can continue within the cycle, because it's unnatural for us. All right, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.